My name is Fleur Conway. I'm an Oxygen Advantage Advanced Instructor, low pressure fitness trainer, life emotional coach, and bark flower therapist, connecting people around the globe. So hello everybody, here today we have Becky Keller that's joining us today. So
Hi.
Thank you, Becky, for joining me. And tell us where you are and what do you do, and a little bit about Becky. Tell us a little bit more.
Perfect. Thank you for having me, Flora. It's nice to finally connect with you. I feel like I've gotten to know a whole community, a whole international community, thanks to things like Instagram, right? And I feel like, communicating a lot over the last couple of years, but it's nice to actually sit down and have a conversation and meet each other in person. So where I am from and where I'm located actually is in New Jersey, so United States, New Jersey, kind of central New Jersey. I live in Pennington, but it's the Princeton area. I kind of grew up in New Jersey, been here all my life and all of that. So I'll tell you a little bit about me and a little bit about my low pressure fitness journey, I guess. So my background is I am a pelvic physical therapist, and I've been a PT for quite some time, and started back in 2009, actually, kind of diving into the world of pelvic health and dedicating my physical therapy career to helping people with all different forms of pelvic floor dysfunction. And so started that long journey. At the time, nobody kind of knew what pelvic physical therapy was. Nobody knew really anything about it. People were somewhat shocked at what I did. And so it's grown tremendously in awareness and just in education, and so many people, learning and wanting to learn at a very early age or stage in their professional career as a physical therapist. So I was an orthopedic PT for quite some time, did a lot of manual therapy, and then said, hey, you know what, I really wanted to specialize in something, and kind of wanted to understand and learn a little bit more about what the heck's happening in the middle part of my body, right? Because as when I went to PT school, didn't really learn too much about that area of the body. So along my journey and continuing to learn with pelvic health, and hey, like, what's some of the new stuff out there? What's some of the cutting edge treatments? What's some of the really trailblazing that kind of happens in the profession? I came across hypopressives and low pressure fitness in particular. And so in 2016, there was a course that was being held local in the North Jersey, New York area. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to go into this with a really open mind, not really knowing too much about it, but anything that I could learn to help my patients a little bit more was my goal. And I had heard that this was a treatment or used a lot for people who had a pelvic organ prolapse, right? And so I went to the course, and I had such tremendous, even personal changes and results from the one course. I was like, this is awesome. I need to learn more. And at the time, I share this, and I'm pretty open about this, is I had a hysterectomy at a pretty young age. I was about 37 years old when I had the hysterectomy. And as much as I knew in pelvic health and all of those things, I was just having a hard time recovering, and didn't realize what a difficult time I was having with breathing, with recoordinating my abdominal wall, even with where my posture was taking me, and where I was actually feeling pain, and having actually, believe it or not, a lot of neck pain. I had had the surgery, quickly went back to work, and as a physical therapist, we're using our body a lot. And after that weekend, I felt tremendously better. I was like, holy shit, I am breathing better, sorry to swear, but I am posturing better. I feel like I am 3 inches taller. My neck pain went away. And it was so amazing for me. I was like, this is just wonderful. So I wanted to learn and learn more. And of course, you know, at that time, there wasn't a lot of education opportunities. This had developed in Spain. I don't speak any Spanish. So it was really hard for me to, well, we got to change that. I know it was very hard for me to kind of access more information, but this is where I think fate intervenes. And the founder of Low Pressure Fitness, the developer, Dr. Tamara Rael, had moved from Spain to the United States, very close to where I live. So I have been very fortunate to learn under her, mentor under her, become very good friends with her, and she lives so close, and it's been amazing with that. And so I got a chance to learn more. And I was like, I want to teach. You know, it was part of my kind of professional evolution that I've been like, hey, I've been doing this a long time as a pelvic PT, and what can I do, and how can I teach, and how can I give back with what I know and what my knowledge is. And this just seemed like the right thing, like the perfect fit, that I'm like, I want to start teaching. I want to start sharing this, you know, with the world, or anybody really that would speak, you know, could speak English, basically. I want to be able to help and be that person. And so I started teaching under her as her teaching assistant. And then the pandemic hit, and obviously the world changed a lot. And we started to do online, and I started then teaching for Low Pressure Fitness, doing the online. I also got to meet my current co-teacher and partner, which is Alexa Marine. And so the two of us now have been teaching essentially low pressure fitness hypopressives from the English perspective, basically now for the last 2.5 years. And it's been wonderful. We have a really great pairing, as me as the clinical aspect, you know, looking at it and how I can use it, you know, as the pelvic physical therapist or the pelvic health clinician, and then how she brings in the fitness professional aspect of it. And so that perspective, those combined together, I think it makes for a very rich understanding and class, and the knowledge and the education that we kind of give and goes back and forth, I think has been tremendous. And at the same time,
it's your personalities as well. I mean,
yeah.
Alexa, she's got such a way out personality. I mean, she always, you know, bringing in a lot of fun.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
your teaching is so pristine. You know, the way you do the exercises. I don't know. You've got such a very sort of sophisticated and accurate way of, you know, doing the exercises and of teaching. So I think both of you together, you're just, you know, you complement each other fantastically.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
And it's funny actually that you mentioned that you came across low pressure fitness because of hysterectomy, because I also had a hysterectomy when I was 33.
Oh, okay.
And I realized that the hysterectomy had provoked a lot of adhesions within my abdominal cavity, which provoked a lot of, you know, inflammation and digestive issues and pelvic pain. And this is where as well I found that the low pressure fitness helped me a lot. It helped release those adhesions and help me with all those nasty after effects that you can have from surgery, and especially from a hysterectomy. Yeah. So it's, you know, it's funny how we both coincided in that way as well.
Yeah. And I think too, like, until, and again, spending so many years treating patients that had hysterectomies, and sometimes until you actually go through that process to truly understand what it feels like. And there can be, and everybody can present differently with some major surgery like that. But I think often it's so ingrained, like, okay, well, you had surgery, 6-8 weeks later, you're healed, everything should be fine.
Yeah, get on
and
with
there
it.
I am months later going, holy cow, like my body is gripping. My nervous system even, I think, was so affected because of you know, it being very traumatic for my body and the situation in which how it had happened, that, you know, I think I was just in many ways even idling high into that constant sympathetic dominance. And
Well, I think as well, you know, there's the component as well, not only the physical component,
yeah.
but also the emotional component.
Mhm.
Because even though, for instance, I was in tremendous pain,
Mhm.
and I went through treatments, and they basically they couldn't help me. It got to the point where they said, look, either you have surgery or you just have to carry on how you are. And it got so bad that in the end I wanted the surgery, and it was like, yeah, just get it out of me, and just, you know, I want this pain out. But even though I wanted the surgery, I knew that I had to have the surgery, it was still quite a shock to my emotional system, because it was like, okay, childbearing is now out of the question. You know, I'd already had 2 children, and that was fine. You know, I'm not one of these women who really wanted, you know, big families or anything like that. But it's not the same thinking about it or saying, okay, I don't want any more children, to say, okay, now I cannot have any more children.
Right.
It's quite a shock to the system as well, and on an emotional level.
It is. And it's that finality of that being taken away from you. Yeah, gives me the chills. But yeah, and I'm blessed to have a son. I'm looking over there because he's hanging out over there, my 12-year-old. So I'm blessed to have him. But part of, I wanted more children, and that was to be taken away like that, at least from the biological standpoint, you know, not saying that, you know, there's obviously other avenues to be able to grow your family and develop and build your family, but that, and I 100% agree. It is a very, very emotional, a very difficult thing, I think, for the body to comprehend something like that, or even try to comprehend that.
Yeah. And I think it's very important what you say, that, you know, when one goes through the process oneself, then we have the ability to be able to help others in a better way. This is, for instance, what's happening with me now with the menopause, because I'm going through that transition now. So there's a lot of things that are happening within me, so I can relate to other women, you know, for whatever they're going through, and also seeing what is helping me and wanting to also help other women. So it is very important when, you know, when we've been through things, to be able to learn from those issues that we've had, to be able to help others. I think it's much more profound what we can share, rather than just by learning, for instance, from a book, or just going on a course and just learning, you know, from a course. But when you've actually gone through it, then you can actually relate, and you can also feel it within yourself as well, the changes. There's something I wanted to ask you. How do you find, you know, in your practice, do you get a lot of male men coming in with problems with pelvic floor issues? Because I find that men are still a little bit stuck on that. They seem to think that they don't have a pelvic floor.
Well, maybe. Yeah. And I do, and I do work with men. Is it a huge volume of my caseload? Not necessarily. There's certain categories of patient diagnoses I typically see for men. It could either be the GI constipation realm. So I will see men for that often. The other area is after prostate removal. So there's that urinary incontinence percentage, you know, of patients that are continuing to leak after having a prostatectomy. And then also I see a lot, and recently have seen a lot of just younger men that have what they're being diagnosed as chronic prostatitis. And so it falls into that pelvic pain category, so that there's some tensioning or spasming in the muscles of the pelvic floor that are kind of contributing to that pain component that they're having, maybe even urinary symptoms of frequency and urgency, that type of symptom too. So I see that. And then of course, their urologists are diagnosing them with chronic prostatitis, trying to go down a realm of giving them an antibiotic and it doesn't, really help them. And so this is where, coming to pelvic physical therapy. But I would say overall, I agree with your summation of, many men just don't have the awareness of what's going on. They don't realize these services are available. So what I've seen over the last, let's say, decade with women, it's slowly starting to add that awareness for realizing that, wow, so much we can help with men from a pelvic health standpoint. And my male patients, I have done low pressure fitness hypopressives with, especially I see it works wonderful for the incontinence, works wonderful also for the constipation management, because what I love about it is that reflexive involuntary strengthening that they're getting in their deep system muscles. So that deep abdominal transverse, and the response of the pelvic floor with the breathing and all of that being, I think, a tremendous tool, I guess you want to say, in the conjunction of my treatment for helping people with constipation. And
well, it's really good seeing now that that in low pressure fitness they're talking a lot about the men's side as well, not only just focused on women, but also focused as well on men. And also as well, it's important for men to be aware of their pelvic floor as well because of sports. There's so many sport activities that can have a negative influence on the pelvic floor.
Sure.
And that doesn't only affect women, but it also affects men.
Yeah.
And so, the more awareness that we can get out there, the more we can help both women and men.
Yeah.
And also, I think it's interesting that we change that mentality of let's do something when I have the problem. Why don't we do something to prevent, to have more of a preventative rather than, oh my gosh, I have a problem or I have pain, then I'm going to seek help or I'm going to do something about it. And one of the good things I think here you'll agree with me is that, low pressure fitness can be implemented into the sports training regime. It doesn't have to be, okay, I've got to do my half an hour low pressure fitness, then I'm going to do my breathing, and then I'm going to do my sports activity. But the low pressure fitness can be brought into that warm up or that cool down. So it doesn't have to be a separate activity. For instance, if there's a younger person that doesn't have any issues with their pelvic floor, but they want to bring it in as a preventative measure, then they can add it in to their normal fitness regime or sports training as a warm up or as a cool down.
Yeah.
What's your
There's the whole wellness category of it, really. And doing this, as you said, more of a proactive approach, right? And what I always think is funny, and I don't know how you feel about this, but when you're working with people and they're like, oh, well, it looks like you're just standing there and breathing, and then you do this, suction thing going on in your belly. How hard can that be? And then I link a couple poses together and get them working. And they're like, holy cow, this is challenging. It's a full body workout. And it's amazing. And this is where I always say to people, because they're like, well, what is it that you do? And they think it's only that abdominal vacuum, which again, if I were to if I were to kind of break it down and say, well, that's a percentage of what we do with it. But then this is a postural breathing training system. This is myofascial mobilization, really. It's strengthening and working the body in a way of translating forces through fascial planes. So it's not just one area, it's affecting the entire body. And we know that our body doesn't work in isolation, our muscles, they're working in slings and fascial lines and all that stuff. And it works on mobility, flexibility, and then even coming in, as we talked about, that neurodynamic aspect. So mobilizing the nervous system. So there's so many beneficial things. And that's kind of also what I love about this. And like, this is a complete system. This is a complete movement system, right? Yeah. And workout, but can be used in a way like, let's do it to prep the system for that loading that's going to happen maybe in their dynamic sport, or let's use this as a way to improve the flexibility instead of like, let's, sitting down hamstring stretching, but what happens when we mobilize the diaphragm and the posterior fascial line and how that affects your flexibility. So it's different ways of thinking, strengthening the body, mobilizing the body, not just one particular area.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you. And, there's a lot of times that, I like to emphasize that, low pressure fitness is so much more than just the abdominal vacuum. And if anything, you could actually even take out the abdominal vacuum for, people that aren't able to do it for whatever reason, and they can benefit by everything else. And posture and breath are the basics of absolutely everything. Mm-hmm. For our stabilization, for breathing properly, for moving properly, from seeing properly, from how we perceive the environment and how the other people perceive us as well. Mm-hmm. It's so important, our posture, our movement.
Yeah. And as you said, circulation, blood chemistry, lymphatics.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's amazing. I mean, talk about a system that's affecting every other system within our body is that filtration lymphatic system. And how do we move lymph? Breathing, the diaphragm, right? And movement. And so to again, there's so many, I can argue that every single person could benefit from this in one way or another, right? I could argue that. I could argue any patient from, if you're a pelvic health, clinician or a provider, anything like that, or physical therapist, you could help so many people with back pain, neck pain, like it's just amazing what you can do. And as you can see, I'm super passionate about it, and I know you are too. And it's good. And I think we come from it we see the results. We've worked with so many people that has helped. And we've also had that personal experience with it, yeah. I think too.
And also there's such a variety of poses, and also when we can bring in accessories, we can bring in bands, we can bring in the fitness ball to work with, we can work with the wall, we can work on the floor. Mm-hmm. It's with dynamic poses and postures. Yep. I mean, it's just it's just fantastic, isn't it?
You will never be bored in an LPF class, because the sky, once you learn, you've got somebody who's been trained at least with all three levels in the wall, it certainly is like the sky is the limit with all different things and combinations. And I think that's one of my favorite things, because I kind of dabble in both worlds, in the sense of I got the one-on-one patient in the clinical setting, and then I've got more of the wellness fitness aspect of it. And so that wellness fitness aspect satisfies that ability to work with multiple people at one time, to just be fun and creative, and in a way choreographing, and then also diving it into a level of that psychological connection with it. Like why we do certain poses, some of them are power poses, some of them are, you know, poses that calm us down a little bit. So it's really kind of neat to understand, you know, and how you can change, again, as you said, how we view the world and how the world views us from how we're posturing and posing, which is really quite interesting.
Yeah.
And listen, I ask everybody this: what's your favorite pose?
You're going to ask me.
I'm going to ask you, what's your favorite
gosh.
pose?
Do you know, I knew you were going to ask me this. Do you know, to be honest, I don't know.
Okay.
All
of them.
Yes, all of them, because depending on how I'm feeling,
Yes.
depending on my needs,
Uh-huh.
I feel more connected to one pose or to another pose.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I do like, you know, the Maya and Gaia.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they are the poses that I repeat a lot.
Yes.
But it all depends on how I'm actually feeling. You know, sometimes I'm feeling more empowered, and I want to do something a little bit more static, or that needs a little bit more of my posture stabilization. And then other times I just want to be more connected to the floor, and postures where I feel that, you know, even though I'm maintaining all the postural, all my posture,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to be in contact with the floor. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to answer your question. I love it all.
Yeah.
So Becky, how can people get in touch with you?
You can certainly contact me through something like social media, like Instagram. Elevate Core Health, or at Elevate Core Health, is my handle. I have what I kind of say, a little, you know, kind of fitness company that does that. And I've recently started taking over again, more of the professional education component for US. So become kind of LPF USA distributor too as well. So if you want to, from the professional standpoint, learn more that way. But then I also do private sessions. I also do group classes, weekly group classes, weekly intro, or I shouldn't say weekly, monthly intro workshops that I do to kind of give people that little bit of, you know, crash course on what this is and how they can learn. So that's elevatecorehealth.com is my website for that. And you can also, the professional courses are ability to register and access them too.
And your clinic?
Yeah, my clinic, I work for a private practice called Active Core, and we actually have a couple of different clinics within the country, basically. So we have our kind of main hub here in the Princeton, New Jersey area. We also have another hub in the Atlanta area, and then one in like the Denver, Colorado area. So activecore.com is how you can kind of learn all about that. And we do some interesting things. You know, we're kind of really into movement there. We're into that myofascial connection with movement. We do something called Red Cord there, which is like a suspension system.
Yes,
so I've been having fun trying to combine some of the LPF with that.
That is something that I've been doing as well with the TRX.
Yes. Yeah.
I've been combining the TRX with the low pressure fitness as well.
Yes. Yeah.
And wow, my gosh.
Yeah. It's amazing with the closed chain of the straps with the hands, and then going into, you know, the ability to add spinal movement with the closed chain, then coming into some of the harder poses like Persephone, for example, Aura too, and tall kneeling, where I kind of give a little bit of, you can get a little bit extra lean when you have that support with the arms. So it's been interesting trying to kind of combine that. So that's fairly new for me. And so I'm slowly learning that. And then again, combining everything. So we look at it really from that whole neuromuscular education standpoint, really. So
that's
the
fantastic.
LPF ties in nice with that too. So yeah.
Fantastic. But I will anyway write down underneath, when I've edited the video a little bit, I'll write down underneath so people can have your contact. And maybe we can meet up another day and we can go maybe into some specific area or something and have a little chat about something specific. If you
would love to. would love to, we would love to. And I'm always about, listen, I want to bring awareness. I want, ask away with any questions. I don't know when you're going to air this, but even tomorrow, Alexa and I will be on the main LPF, our main low pressure fitness account, doing a live. And I love and encourage people to ask questions because we want people to know and understand and what this is, and not just kind of assume it's this, or assume that they know what they're doing, by just doing that suction abdominal vacuum maneuver, so there's a lot of education with it, but we've got a lot of people already over even the past 2.5 years that I've been teaching, that we have so many LPF certified providers now in Europe, in the United States, but also the international community of it, because we know this was kind of born in Spain, right? And has grown tremendously in like Spain and Brazil and South America. So it's awesome.
It's all over the world now.
Yes.
And it is, as you say, it is important as well for people who want to learn low pressure fitness, even if it's just on a personal level, to go to somebody who is certified and does know, what they're doing, because there are a lot of videos on YouTube, or, there's a lot of information out there, but there is a lot of misinformation as well. And especially on, doing the abdominal vacuum, that everybody seems to be just focused on that. And they don't take into account, the posture, the breath, and everything else.
Exactly.
So it is important. Yeah.
And as you know, as an Oxygen Advantage, trainer, the importance of breathing and the rest breathing and breathing mechanics, right? So it's not just about the apnea hold, but it's also about those other mechanics that we're trying to kind of reinforce, which is important for pressure management, even, let alone physiology.
And the thing is as well, in low pressure fitness, it's also an ongoing education.
Right.
It's not just, for instance, in my case, it hasn't been just the case of doing the 3 levels of low pressure fitness, and then I've done the wall series. I've done the wall series 1 and 2, and then I've done the geometrical.
I know. I want to learn that. I've only been taught a few poses here and there.
Yes,
so
they're great, and especially with Olga, it's just fantastic the way she teaches. I love it. But it's also, going into learning more about pelvic floor, about prolapse, about diastasis. It's an ongoing.
Yep.
So, there's a lot of trainers out there that are very much in their ongoing learning, which is necessary.
Yeah. And I think that is so important. I think that's a great point that you make, is that our learning shouldn't just stop. You know what I mean? Once we get those initial things, but how we can continue to learn and the ability to have that support to continue to learn in so many different areas. But we should meet again and talk about maybe some of those specific things that you had even said, like diastasis recti. That's that's the DRA. That's a big hot topic these days, right? There's lots of swings in the pendulum with how we look and treat that, and stuff like that. So that would be quite interesting, I think.
Okay, I'll take you.
We should do that. And then, what I asked you before when we had this, we should talk a little bit about breathing mechanics and really what's going on when we breathe, and what do we think that normal mechanical breathing should kind of look like, right?
Okay,
so,
brilliant.
Fun things.
So yes, we will do that, and maybe we can do a little bit of practical as well.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's been lovely to meet you at long last. Well, really talk to you.
Yeah.
And we'll catch up soon.
Yeah.
So thank you, Becky, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Take care then. Bye-bye.
Thank you.